Hello, PCOC kids and families. I wanted to share some thoughts with you guys today in lieu of our Bible class since we're not being able to be together right now. And I wanted to bring it to you while I'm sitting next to our pond or close to our pond. The weather is absolutely beautiful. And I wanted to talk to you guys today about the Sunday before Resurrection Day, or we usually celebrate that as Easter. Now, I don't know if a lot of you guys know this because this is actually something we don't talk about as much, but the Sunday before Easter is a special day called Palm Sunday. And on Palm Sunday, churches all over the world since Christ's death have been remembering the triumphal entry of Christ. Now, the triumphal entry of Christ took place in Jerusalem. This was a really poignant moment for Jesus and his disciples more later when they thought back on it. But even at the time, it was a really special time in Jesus' life where prophecies came true and the beginning of a walk toward the cross started. Before Jesus got to Jerusalem, where this fantastic thing happened that we'll continue to talk about, Jesus had raised Lazarus from the dead just a little way up the road from Jerusalem in a city called Bethany. And if you remember, this was a really incredible story of a very close friend of Jesus's who had died. It's the time that the Bible tells us that Jesus wept, and he probably did that other times too, but that's the time that the Bible tells us about it because his friend had died, and his friend's sisters, Martha and Mary, were just heartbroken over it, and so he wept for them and he wept for his own loss of Lazarus. He raised Lazarus from the dead, which was this fantastic thing that really got people talking. In John, it tells us that this was such a fantastic thing that people started believing in Jesus who had never believed in Jesus before, including lots of Jews. And so this whole raising of Lazarus had created quite a stir in this area. So Jesus was in Bethany. He did this fantastic thing. He took a meal with Mary and Martha and Lazarus. He spent time with the people in Bethany, and he moved towards Jerusalem. Now we want to keep in mind that as Jesus entered the city of Jerusalem, he knew what was coming, but the rest of them didn't, even though he had been telling them. Jesus knew that the time was coming. Well, part of what was fantastic about that is that because Lazarus had been raised from the dead, people were paying attention to Jesus even more than before. And this was wonderful. People were starting to really wonder, maybe this really is Jesus. This was a fantastic thing that had happened. And so as Jesus got closer to Jerusalem, and remember, Bethany was very close. It was only like 2 miles away from Jerusalem. So as Jesus approaches the city gate, he's coming into Jerusalem, which was a very big city, and it was a city that was very full because the Passover was about to happen, which was the biggest feast of the year. And Jesus is coming into the city of Jerusalem. Well, people who have been hearing the story of Lazarus, they've seen Lazarus, they know about this wonderful person named Jesus, and many people are beginning to believe. And there is a lot of excitement about Jesus, this guy who's coming into the city. Well, before he gets into the city and he's heading into Jerusalem, Jesus tells his disciples to go into the city and to look for a donkey and her colt. Now, I think that this is a fascinating little tidbit that all of the Gospels tell us about. But Jesus told the disciples to go into the city to find a donkey and her colt that are tied up and to bring it to him. He also gave them instructions. If anybody asks why you're taking the colt, just tell them that the Lord needs it. All 4 gospel accounts recognize when they get there, they start to untie this colt I can imagine this might have been a little bit nervous. They go to untie the donkey and her colt, and sure enough, someone says, "Why are you taking that?" think it's the book of John that says the owners of the colt says, "Why are you taking that?" And the disciples did what Jesus said. The disciples said, "The Lord needs this." And according to all of the Gospels, the owner allowed them to do that. So they take the colt to Jesus. Now remember, a colt is a baby donkey. It's a young donkey. All of our versions tell us that no one had ridden on that colt before. That's important because later on we are going to be reminded that that was a fulfillment of a prophecy that was mentioned about Jesus way back in Zechariah. So Jesus sits on this colt and he rides into the city of Jerusalem through one of their main gates. It's the same gate that they bring the Passover lamb, which was a very significant part of the Passover feast, which is coming in just a few days. So Jesus rides in to this gate, and people were so excited to see him. And so out of a spirit-filled act of worship, the people started laying down their cloaks in front of Jesus. This was an act of submission to a king. They laid down their cloaks and Jesus walked over it. And all four Gospels mention that they were waving palm branches and that they were singing this song. There's different versions of it, but all of the Gospel accounts talk about them singing. They all four use the word Hosanna. Hosanna. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, even the King of Israel. That is the version from John. But the people are waving these palm branches. Hosanna, Hosanna to the highest. They recognize that Jesus, who's coming into the gate, coming into this place, is the same Jesus who had raised Lazarus from the dead, and he was something special. There was a movement among the people where they were beginning to grasp who this Jesus was. Well, we know also because of the gospel account that just like it got the people of Jerusalem excited, the Jews and even the Gentiles excited, it upset the Pharisees. The Pharisees were very upset about this. These were the Jews, the Jewish law, who were very bothered by this. They did not want to accept that Jesus was the Lord, and so this whole production was very difficult for them. The different versions of the Bible present their words a little bit differently, and we're actually going to talk some more about those words tomorrow. But I just want you to consider how awesome it might have been to be present when Jesus walked in the gate of that city. Now, we can't fully understand that because the meaning, there's layers and layers of meaning there. Because Jesus walked into the gate as a sacrificial lamb, and even though the people there didn't fully understand it yet, they would later. The disciples didn't fully understand, but they would later. We appreciate that Jesus is beginning this slow walk towards his death, and then a week from then going to celebrate his resurrection. Now, we as Christians get to take this time to do that ourselves, to pause and remember this very important act that Jesus did, this coming into the city with full understanding and how the people responded. So I want to invite you this week to do your own celebration of Jesus and to take some time to just remember those few days before Jesus died, before the plan that God had been working all along was about to come to pass. Now, the people in Jerusalem used palm branches because that's what was there, that's what they had available. It was also a symbol of royalty. We don't have a lot of palm branches here in Tennessee, but we have other beautiful foliage right now, and you can see, just beautifulness. So I want to encourage you and your family. There's a lot of different ways that you can mark this time as well. Not only can you read for yourself out of the Gospels, and they're very short. All of them are short. So I would encourage you and your family to read every account of the triumphal entry in the Gospels and look for the differences and look for the things that are the same between all of the stories. And one word that's the same is Hosanna. Hosanna. So one thing that you can do to celebrate and to mark that space for yourself is to go out and find a branch of something green and beautiful and growing. Take that branch and on Palm Sunday, which is April 5th, take that and post it somewhere where people outside your house can see it. Post it on your door, lay it on your porch as a symbol to Christians everywhere that you are remembering that Jesus came into Jerusalem knowing that he was an important part of God's plan, and that an important part of God's plan that he would die for us. This is a celebration. Another idea for how you can mark this time is by making your own palm branch. So here we have one hand for every person in our family. We stacked those up in different colors of green to make our own palm branch. Now, a lot of churches celebrate Palm Sunday by waving palms and walking in a line through the church and saying, "Hosanna to the highest." And maybe if we were together, we would do something like that. But since we're not, you get to share this time special with your family. So I want to encourage you. Mark time either by creating a palm branch, maybe with all the names of your family, so that each one can take time to remember them laying these at the feet of Jesus. Or maybe you can go collect a branch from outside and put that on your door. But I just want you to take some time today and just remember that Jesus came as a part of a perfect plan of God. And even though there's difficult times ahead in the next week of Jesus' life, he is going to sacrifice himself willingly. Now, we are going to celebrate Holy Week together at PCOC while we're apart. And how we're going to do that is that each day this week, I will post a link to a video here on YouTube. And we are going to share some different assignments. And each assignment is going to be an assignment that will help you and your family remember something about the week leading up to Jesus' death and his resurrection. So I want to encourage you every day to check. And for all the people, so every day your participation will get you an entry into a drawing that we will do on Easter Sunday for a gift card to Sonic. And you can either use that now, or you can use that later after some of this craziness has lifted. It will be enough for you to be able to treat your family to a Sonic drive-in. And you'll get one entry per your entry. So if you make a palm branch, take a picture, and that will be an entry. We'll draw your name. And it's the assignments that we have this week. Every time you participate in that, you'll get another entry into a drawing for our Easter Sunday drawing for that Sonic gift card. All right, my friends, I love you dearly. I miss you very much. But remember, today is the day that the Lord has made. Hosanna and God in the highest. I want to pray very many blessings on you and your family today. And I'm praying for each of you, and that God is still showing you amazing things. And in this quiet space where we're all home and we're together, that you get to learn new and beautiful things about God that you may have never known before. All right, happy Palm Sunday, happy Holy Week. May God bless you and keep you, and Hosanna to God in the highest. Love you all.